To marry the crown prince. My half-sister drugged me and sent me to the 8th prince's bed. Father flew into a rage, forcing me to marry the brutally cruel 8th prince as his concubine. Meanwhile, my half-sister took my place and became the crown princess as she'd wished. I was strangled to death by the drunken 8th prince. Seeing my pitiful state, my half-sister stood in her fiery red crown princess wedding gown, her eyes filled with vicious triumph. Sister, dear sister, it's a blessing you're dead. This overwhelming fortune is finally mine. When I awoke reborn, my half-sister held that very cup of wine, coaxing me to drink. When I died, my body was covered in bruises, my clothes torn to shreds by guards. And the beastly prince who strangled me? He was already surrounded by a circle of beauties. On the day I entered the prince's mansion, I refused to submit. In the end, I bit his arm until blood gushed forth. Furious and enraged, he choked me viciously, his eyes bloodshot. You're nothing but a worthless thing. What right do you have to act so high and mighty? Your crown princess sister has spoken. I'm to teach you a lesson. Soon, I stopped moving, my breath gone. My wide eyes remained open, refusing to close in death. My spirit drifted in the air. I watched as the beastly prince casually kicked me off the bed, bestowing me upon several guards. At least she's the daughter of a grand steward. Even dead, she's a beauty. You may have her. Guards dragged me into a side chamber, tearing my clothes to shreds. Then my spirit left the prince's mansion and drifted into the Jiang residence. I saw my half-sister trying on a scarlet wedding gown, radiant and captivating. In the flickering candlelight, the dress's crimson glowed painfully bright, reminding me of the pool of blood beneath my corpse. Her mother, Lady Zhang, traced the phoenix embroidery on the gown, her delight palpable. After all this scheming, it's finally settled, with Jiang Wanue's virtue tarnished. She could never become crown princess. The imperial decree for the crown prince's consort had already been issued. No matter what, the Jiang household must produce a daughter to fulfill this role. Henceforth, my Wanu would be Jiang Wanue, the legitimate daughter of the Jiang household. Fortunately, the Jiang family had only recently moved to the capital and had yet to meet His Highness the Crown Prince or the influential aristocratic families. A shadow of cruelty flashed across Jiang Wanru's eyes as a faint smile touched her lips. Humph. Mother's plan is indeed the best. Even if father dislikes me becoming crown princess, I refuse to believe he could reject an imperial decree and forego such glory and wealth. As for Jiang Wanue, she shall henceforth be the concubine-born Jiang Wanu. I have already sent word to the prince, instructing him to properly train his new secondary consort. Mother, rest assured, with Jiang Wanue's frail constitution, she won't last half a month. Afterwards, Jiang Wanru stroked the exquisite pearls embroidered on her robe, murmuring admiringly with eyes brimming with smug satisfaction. Sister, oh sister, this overwhelming fortune. It's finally my turn to claim it. In a fit of rage, I yanked out my hairpin and thrust it fiercely toward them. Yet my spirit passed right through their bodies, leaving them utterly unmoved. The next instant, my spirit began to fade, blood tears streaming down my face. I swore through gritted teeth, if there is a next life, I will make them pay for their crimes with their blood. When I opened my eyes again, my younger half-sister sat before me, holding the cup of drugged wine. In my memory, the brutal 8th prince had his hands clamped around my throat. His greasy, repulsive bulk crushed down on me. I struggled desperately, yet remained utterly immobilized. The brutal pressure on my throat felt as real as ever, suffocating me with agony. Yet the next moment, I found myself safely seated in my boudoir at the Jiang residence. The person before me had transformed into my half-sister, Jiang Wanru. She held that drugged wine, her face beaming with a cheerful smile. She claimed it was her freshly brewed daughter's red wine. a congratulatory gift for my becoming crown princess. In my previous life, she had tricked me into drinking that very cup under the guise of celebration. When I awoke again, it was in the eighth prince's embrace. At that moment, my clothes were completely stripped from me, my body covered in red marks and bruises. The next moment, Jiang Wanru's biological mother, consort Xing, stormed in with father and Jiang Wanru's entourage. Kicking open the door, father witnessed the scene of me and the eighth prince lying naked together. He spat out a mouthful of blood in rage, lamenting the family's misfortune. A flash of cruelty flickered in Jiang Wanru's eyes. She then dragged father away, whispering something to him. After they returned, I became the concubine-born daughter Jiang Wanru in father's words. That night, I was bound and brought into the prince's mansion, becoming the eighth prince's secondary consort. The original concubine-born daughter Jiang Wanru took my place as the legitimate daughter Jiang Wanyu, soon to enter the eastern palace. Recalling the eighth prince's brutish face as he lay dying, I still felt my heart race. In my panic, I screamed and shoved Jiang Wanru away with all my strength. She fell to the ground with a thud, the wine spilling onto the floor. Seeing the spilled wine, a flicker of panic crossed her face, and a flash of viciousness vanished from her eyes. I was utterly astonished. Looking at my own hands, I instantly realized I was no longer a spirit. I had been reborn. Jiang Wanru's eyes darted about as she scrambled to her feet, grabbing my hand. Her eyes brimmed with hurt. A tear even welled in the corner of her eye as a sweet, whiny voice came. What? Now that sister has become the crown prince's consort. Does she look down on her little sister? This was the daughter's red wine I specially brewed for sister, meant as a grand gift for your future wedding. Then the imperial decree arrived, sister. You're so blessed. I brought it out early to celebrate with you. But if you don't like it, just tell me. Why must you treat the wine I painstakingly brewed for you so cruelly? In my past life, Jiang Wanru was always good at playing the victim around me. She'd come to my courtyard constantly, clinging to me day after day. I'm generous by nature and didn't mind these things. Thus, whatever delicacies or fine garments were in the Jiang residence, if Jiang Wanru desired them, I had no objection to sharing. Yet I never imagined that beneath her delicate, fragile exterior lay such a wicked and vicious heart. Jiang Wanru. And you, your own mother, Lady Zheng. This lifetime, I will not let you off the hook. I looked at her, a faint, mocking smile playing on my lips, and spoke coldly. My dear sister, then tell me, what must I do to honor this cup of wine? Hearing this, she froze, stunned by my sudden coldness. A flash of chill crossed her eyes, yet her face remained innocent. Sister merely wished for you to taste this cup of daughter's red. Before she could finish, I seized her hand tightly, feigning emotion. Since that's the case, bring another cup. I shall drink it in one gulp. Of course, I didn't drink it. The moment Jiang Wanru brought another cup, I dismissed the servants. The next instant, I grabbed the cup and poured its entire contents into Jiang Wanru's mouth without spilling a drop. Once, I was the fish on the chopping block. Now, it's time for a change. Jiang Wanru's face drained of color. She bent over, trying to vomit, but nothing came up. Panic seized her, and she tried to flee. I gripped her wrist fiercely, staring at her as I spoke calmly. What's this? The wine I offer. Sister Wanru can't drink? Rest assured, Jiang Wanru, after drinking this cup today, you won't be leaving the store. I watched as the terror in Jiang Wanru's eyes gradually gave way to a hazy, unfocused look. Her breathing grew increasingly ragged, and a flush began to spread across her cheeks. I smiled faintly, my eyes filled with hatred and cold indifference. Jiang Wanru, I will kill you. But before I do, I will make you taste every ounce of suffering I endured. I won't let you die easily. I summoned my trusted maid, Chiu Tong, and whispered instructions to her. Then I lay back on the bed, waiting for the show to begin. When the door kicked open, I closed my eyes, feigning rest. Madame Zhang's shrill voice pierced my eardrums. Master! Even if Wanu is foolish, she couldn't possibly do something so shameful to our family at this critical moment. Now that she and the 8th prince have consummated their affair, where does that leave the reputation of the Jiang household and the crown prince's palace? A young lady who's just come of age, losing her virtue so easily. How utterly lacking in self-respect. But the next second, her voice abruptly stopped. Because lying on my bed was not the 8th prince. Dead as a pig. My father's raised hand dropped limply. I feigned awakening and sat up, frowning at the crowd before me. I spoke with displeasure. Father and consort Ching, accompanied by maids and servants, barged into their daughter's boudoir. One might think some great calamity had befallen us. Concubine Zhang, your frantic panic and constant talk of lost virtue truly disgrace the Jiang family. Could it be that my mother's prolonged illness has made you forget she remains the mistress of this Jiang household? Concubine Jing hadn't expected my usually soft-spoken self to now speak with such sharp wit. Stunned into silence by my retort, her face instantly drained of color. The next moment, her face twisted into a fawning expression as she feigned apology. Her eyes, however, darted restlessly around my room. I knew exactly what she was searching for, the 8th prince. Too bad. Madame Zhang, your carefully laid plans are about to go awry today. A mocking smile touched my lips. I stared straight at her, my tone utterly merciless. Madame Zhang, what are you looking for? Judging by your expression, could it be you suspect I'm hiding some wild man in here? She denied it vehemently, claiming she'd heard rumors from the maids that the 8th prince, drunk, had come to my room to take advantage of me. I burst into laughter as if hearing the most absurd joke imaginable. The next moment, a young maid rushed in, kneeling on the floor. Her voice trembled as she stammered. Master! Lady Zhang! Hurry to the side chamber. Second young miss. She and the 8th prince. At these words, Lady Zhang's face turned ashen. She looked at me, finally realizing something was amiss. She shot me a venomous glare before storming out. I threw on my outer robe, grabbed father's sleeve, and beckoned everyone to follow her footsteps. Such a grand spectacle, how could anyone miss it? The moment we reached the side room, we witnessed the sultry scene of Jiang Wanru passionately entwined in the 8th prince's embrace. Her pink undershirt was still clamped between the prince's plump lips. Father's face instantly turned green. Madame Jing let out a shriek, her face frozen in disbelief. She lunged forward to pull Jiang Wanru and the prince apart. Then she draped her outer robe over the naked Jiang Wanru. The crimson marks on Jiang Wanru's neck stood out starkly against her snow-white skin. She clutched Jiang Wanru and wailed uncontrollably. Then she turned her furious gaze toward me, her eyes flashing with venom. Father stepped forward and struck Jiang Wanru hard across the face. Blood instantly filled the corners of her mouth, and only then did she begin to come to her senses. She looked down at herself, naked and covered only by the outer robe. Then she looked at the prince on the bed, lying like a fat pig. In that instant, she understood. The protagonist of today's drama was her, not me. Her gaze fixed on me, her eyes burning with unchecked fury. Then, her eyes filled with tears, and a soft, pitiful voice came. Father, mother, this daughter must have been framed by someone with ulterior motives. The last wine I drank, it was given to me by my elder sister. Before she could finish, I cut in. Sister, what nonsense is this? How could I have given you the wine? It was you who came to my room, insisting I taste the daughter's red wine you brewed yourself. I dropped the cup, spilling the wine, and you insisted on bringing me another. But I waited and waited for you. And when you didn't come, I grew drowsy and dozed off. When I awoke, you and the eighth prince were here. Then, feigning heartache, I wiped away tears. My foolish sister, even if you adore the eighth prince, you mustn't degrade yourself like this. You've barely reached your coming-of-age ceremony and already lost your virtue. If word gets out, people will think our Jiang household is utterly shameless. I deliberately raised my voice on those last 4 words. Hearing utterly shameless, father's face turned green beside me. He then grabbed Jiang Wanu, intending to slap her again. At that very moment, the eighth prince stirred awake. Watching the two of them, a faint smile touched my lips. I immediately stepped in front of father and spoke softly. Father, the eighth prince is watching. Perhaps sister has long harbored feelings for him. Now that we've discovered this, why not go with the flow and grant them their wish? Not only for my sister's honor, but also for the Jiang family's reputation. Father, having served as an official for so many years, has never been the subject of gossip. Now that this incident has occurred, it would be better to earn my sister the honorable title of a secondary consort. Seeing father deep in thought, my eyes were filled with laughter, yet a chill seeped into my heart. Father, having served as an official for so many years, held reputation above all else in his heart. Yes, he would never tolerate anything that might tarnish his reputation. In my previous life, I knelt before him for a long time. My eyes were swollen from crying, begging him not to marry me off to the prince's mansion. Yet he still heartlessly bound me and shoved me into the small sedan chair bound for the mansion. If he could treat his own legitimate daughter this way, what hope was there for a daughter born to a concubine? As for the eighth prince, in my previous life, Consort Xing took advantage of his visit to my father to secretly tamper with things. Before he left, she gave him wine laced with a potion. Then she dismissed the maids outside my room and had servants lead the eighth prince to my chamber. Only this time, the one lying in his arms was Jiang Wanru. The eighth prince adored beauties. His mansion was filled with all manner of lovely maidens. Faced with a government official's daughter offered to him on a silver platter, he would never refuse. Sure enough, the moment my words fell, the eighth prince hastily spoke up. My mansion is vast and prosperous. A secondary consort is certainly within my means to support. After all, I am a man. Minister Jiang, rest assured, I will never let my women suffer. Seeing my father's silence, a flicker of impatience crossed the eighth prince's eyes. The fleshy folds on his face twitched. What? Could it be that Minister Jiang doesn't trust this prince? I immediately grabbed father's hand and gave him a meaningful glance, hinting that he mustn't offend the eighth prince. Just like in my previous life, father ultimately nodded in agreement. Naturally, Jiang Wanru resorted to crying, screaming, and threatening suicide. But she was tightly watched by father's men. Unable to do anything, father would tolerate no mishap on her part. Auntie Xing panicked. Kneeling before him in supplication, tears and snot streaming down her face, she begged father to spare Jiang Wanru. She warned that the eighth prince was a man who devoured his victims whole. How could her daughter's frail frame endure such treatment? Yet the study door remained firmly shut. Outside, rain poured down in torrents, soaking her completely. I approached slowly, feigning kindness as I held an umbrella over her. Then I leaned in close, whispering softly into her ear. What nonsense you speak, concubine. How could my sister not endure it? Didn't I see her quite happy with the eighth prince in bed that day? I gave her a broad smile before walking away with the umbrella. Her words left her trembling with rage. She shot me a vicious glare before fainting on the spot. A cup of wine in hand, I approached the woodshed where Jiang Wanhua was confined. I handed the guards outside a bag of silver, and they immediately opened the door. 2 guards followed me inside. The door creaked open, revealing Jiang Wanru bound and gagged. I closed the door, tore the cloth from her mouth, and stared at her intently. Her eyes widened with terror at the wine in my hand. I took a handkerchief and gently wiped the tears from her face, sighing, "Ah, little sister, you've caused me endless worry since childhood, and now you've gotten yourself into this terrible mess. The 8th Prince's mansion truly isn't a place for humans to live. See, your elder sister feels so sorry for you that I've specially brought you a gift. Drink this, and you'll surely escape this sea of suffering." It was a cup of poisoned wine. Jiang Wanru knew exactly what this was. Her eyes widened as she stared at me. Then she fell silent. I set down the poisoned wine and left immediately. I had intended to kill her outright, but 2 guards followed behind me. Father's orders were clear: she must never be out of their sight. But even if Jiang Wanru didn't drink this poisoned wine, she wouldn't survive more than a few days in the prince's mansion. When the time came, I could strike in secret without delay. Yet the next day, guards rushed to report, "Master and mistress, trouble. The 2nd young miss is missing." That same day, a stable hand vanished from the courtyard. When father and I arrived, guards lay sprawled outside the room. Father discovered they'd been given wine laced with a sleeping potion. Meanwhile, the poisoned wine I'd intended for Jiang Wanru sat untouched on the table. I felt a surge of frustration. I blamed myself for not being ruthless enough, for not slitting Jiang Wanhua's throat with a knife. Father was stunned, his anger boiling over. After all, he was a man of such pride. Yet his own daughter had defied him and fled. Father and I went to Lady Zhang's villa to ask where Jiang Wanru had gone. But she only feigned ignorance, eventually pretending to faint. Father could only leave in frustration. He then ordered the servants to search thoroughly, determined to uncover Jiang Wanru's whereabouts. His court duties kept him busy, leaving him little time to oversee the investigation. Thus, the burden fell upon me. I focused my investigation on the coachman, searching his servants' quarters. In the corner beneath his bed, I discovered a perfume pouch. Embroidered upon it were 2 mandarin ducks, flanked by a blue butterfly. I knew instantly this was Jiang Wanru's handiwork. Every piece of Jiang Wanru's embroidery always featured a blue butterfly. Sure enough, inside was a handkerchief embroidered with the characters for Jiang Wanru. Holding the handkerchief, I could scarcely believe it. Even such intimate items as the sachets and handkerchiefs had been entrusted to the stable hand. The stable hand had been so devoted, even risking his life to save her. Their relationship was clearly more than that of master and servant. Had they already been involved? Had Jiang Wanru actually fallen for a stable hand from the mansion? I ordered the servants to find the stable hand's indenture, which recorded his address before coming to the Jiang residence. When the servants went to investigate, they discovered the place had long been razed to the ground. The trail had gone cold again. I dispatched servants to inquire, even reaching as far as the 8th Prince's residence. But the 8th Prince issued a direct statement. If he wanted someone, he would have come to the Jiang residence himself. Why act so furtively? He also demanded that the Jiang residence hand over the person immediately. He called the Jiang household backtracking and said their behavior was truly unsightly. After searching for over half a month, there was still no sign of Jiang Wanru. I still dared not relax. I arranged for some servants to closely monitor Mrs. Zheng. I told them that if she contacted anyone, they must report to me first. Looking at the imperial crimson wedding gown bestowed by the palace, I made up my mind. This lifetime, everything that is mine, I will hold firmly in my own hands. I will never surrender it all to Jiang Wanru and her mother. And I swear, they will pay the price they deserve. The Jiang family's spies came and went daily. Yet still no news. Jiang Wanru's escape surely involved Lady Zhang's assistance. But whose hand was behind this? Whose reach could be so long? Not only extending into the Jiang residence, but also snatching Jiang Wanru, a living person, right under the noses of the guards. Even now, she remains untraceable. Madame Zhang is merely the daughter of a county magistrate. She couldn't possibly have such vast influence behind her. I pondered this for a long time. Yet my thoughts remained tangled. Until one day, I left the mansion to purchase spices for my mother's calming incense. On the return carriage ride, I casually lifted the curtain and saw a familiar figure. Jiang Wanru? Back at the Jiang residence. She used to cling to me constantly. Every time father received a reward, he'd bring it to me and mother first, and I'd share everything I had with her. So, having lived together in the mansion for so many years, I knew her figure intimately. I knew it had to be her. I hurriedly ordered the carriage to follow. The next moment, her figure vanished into the Spring Phoenix Pavilion. The Spring Phoenix Pavilion was a renowned brothel in the capital. As a betrothed maiden, it was improper for me to go directly. I found several trusted servants. I had them disguise themselves as wealthy merchants and go to the Spring Phoenix Pavilion. Indeed, Spring Phoenix Pavilion only catered to the wealthy and powerful. It was essentially a private garden crafted for the capital's elite with both money and influence. The women here not only possessed exquisite figures but were also masters of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Their demeanor carried 3 parts aloofness and 5 parts melancholy, lamenting the passing seasons. It was striking the snake at its weakest point. Chunfeng Tower capitalized on the elite's idealized vision of the perfect female companion. Thus, within its walls, one could find a woman perfectly suited to their desires. Could Jiang Wanru truly have descended into the life of a courtesan to evade the 8th prince? My trusted servants described her appearance to the madam as I instructed, expecting to find Jiang Wanru. Yet all they encountered were a handful of women merely 5 parts resembling her. Jiang Wanru herself remained conspicuously absent. I dispatched dozens of servants to stake out Chunfeng Tower. But day after day passed, yielding nothing. Next month marks my wedding to Crown Prince Li Xian. Following custom, palace attendants had already arrived at our residence to instruct me in court etiquette. Thus, I turned my focus toward the wedding preparations. Yet days later, a ragged old beggar appeared before the Jiang residence gates. He accused our family of such disgraceful deeds behind closed doors. Despite our wealth, he claimed we had forcibly taken a young girl and demanded we return his daughter. When the servants announced his arrival, I was learning court etiquette with the palace aunt. Father was out with colleagues, and mother remained bedridden with illness. Hearing the news, I hurriedly apologized to the aunt and asked her to wait a moment. Then I had the servants bring the beggar inside. His clothes were in tatters, and from prolonged starvation, he was skin and bones. A pang of pity welled up in my heart. I ordered Chiotong to bring a tray of pastries and several dishes, telling him to eat first and speak afterward. Yet when he saw the roast duck on the table, he only swallowed hard. Then, turning to face me directly, he pleaded for us to return his daughter. I felt utterly bewildered, yet couldn't help but grow impatient. I urged him to explain in detail when exactly the Jiang household had abducted his daughter. Upon hearing this, he instantly trembled with rage. Yet after staring at me for a long moment, he bowed his head and knelt, his voice breaking. "Miss Jiang, this humble peasant knows your family is wealthy. You lack nothing, fine clothes and delicacies fill your days. I beg you, show mercy and return my daughter to me. We country folk have only recently arrived in the capital. After losing our money, we've survived by begging. But even begging, I'd never stoop to selling my own daughter. Not long ago, Miss Jiang and several servants snatched my daughter, who had just turned 9, tossing me a bag of silver. They claimed my daughter was born to be a servant and that being taken by a wealthy family was her good fortune. You seized my daughter in a deserted alley. Had I not followed you for several blocks and heard your servants call you Miss Jiang, I would never have known who abducted my child. Miss Jiang, I beg you. I'll be your slave for life, just release my daughter. Who hasn't even reached 10? Hearing this, shock washed over me, and a chill ran down my spine. When had I ever committed such a despicable act of snatching someone in broad daylight? This man insists it was Miss Jiang. But in all of the capital, there's only one prominent family bearing the Jiang surname, ours. Could it be Jiang Wanu? But why would she kidnap a child not yet 10 years old? Narrowing my eyes, I fixed my gaze on the beggar before me and spoke softly. Old man, are you certain the Jiang miss who abducted her is truly me? Hearing this, he seemed to want to say something. After a long pause, he slowly replied, Truth be told, this humble servant did not see the woman's face. She wore a veil and was dressed in fine garments, clearly of noble birth. Her servants addressed her as Miss Jiang. After much inquiry, I learned that the only prominent Jiang family in the capital is yours, which is why I came here. Now that I think about it, there is indeed a certain resemblance between that woman and your features. Miss Jiang. Miss Jiang. I beg you, please release my daughter. Spare me this torment. Hearing this, I knew immediately that the kidnapper was Jiang Wanru. For Jiang Wanru and I share the same father, though different mothers, and our eyes both resemble our father's. I looked at the bag of silver coins the old beggar handed me. The patterns on them were unmistakably those used by the imperial court. I first calmed the beggar, instructing Chiotong to prepare a clean servant's quarters for him. I assured him I would do my utmost to find his daughter and asked him to rest easy for now. Then, I summoned several young servants and whispered instructions to them discreetly. Jiang Wanru, you sly fox. You've hidden for so long, it's time your true colors show. Should we meet again, I shall not spare your life. When I encountered the fourth Prince Li Jing at the tavern, I was sampling their new delicacy, white jade frost square cakes. The fourth prince is the crown prince's elder brother, his mother being consort Yun of the palace. The crown prince is now the sixth prince, born to the empress. Observing his outwardly elegant, dashing gentlemanly demeanor, I felt an immediate wave of disgust wash over me. 8 words came to mind. All show and no substance. As he took his seat, I spoke directly. Who would have thought His Royal Highness the Fourth Prince, so noble and esteemed, would harbor such peculiar tastes for young girls? TSK. The fourth prince picked up a lotus flower mung bean pastry, just as he was about to pop it into his mouth. Upon hearing my words, he froze solid on the spot. I smiled, a hint of cold contempt flickering in my eyes. What? The fourth prince commits such acts and expects no one to speak of them? He hadn't expected me to be so blunt. He choked on the pastry in his mouth, coughing violently for a long while. Servants behind him hurriedly poured water and patted his back. Only after a long time did he regain his usual composure. He feigned calmness, refusing to admit anything, and instead took a swipe at me. Miss Jiang, you speak without evidence. Do you have proof? I know you're about to enter the Eastern Palace. Does becoming the Crown Prince's fiancé grant you the right to slander me with baseless accusations? Spreading false rumors and tarnishing the royal family's reputation is a grave offense. I smiled, seeing his stubbornness, and simply clapped my hands. Several young girls instantly appeared in the private room of the restaurant. Their youthful innocence remained unblemished. Yet they wore revealing gauze robes and heavy makeup, creating a jarring contrast. Spotting the fourth prince, they trembled violently, panic-stricken. Prince Li Jing feigned composure, though his eyes betrayed panic. I beckoned 2 girls closer and gently brushed the gauze from their backs. There, tattooed in vivid ink, were two characters. Wenji. This was the fourth Prince Li Jing's childhood name. He stared at me, his eyes widening with surprise. Yet he quickly regained his composure, still refusing to admit. Wenji. I have no knowledge of anyone named Wenji. The crown princess consort, of all people, resorts to such underhanded tactics, arbitrarily selecting a few women to openly frame this prince. I shall submit a memorial to His Majesty at once. Then we shall see if you can retain your position as crown princess consort. Hearing this, I hadn't expected the fourth prince to deny it so brazenly. I clapped my hands and laughed aloud. Truly a prince who's weathered many storms. Even upon seeing his own handwriting, he could still deny it. I waved my hand, and my attendants immediately escorted the girls out. Then, narrowing my eyes, I fixed my gaze firmly on the fourth prince, noticing a flicker of tension in his expression. A faint smile touched my lips. Your Highness, since you mentioned appealing to your father, you must own up to this. How about this, we enter the palace together and see how His Majesty handles this matter. What do you say? At my words, the fourth prince's face instantly paled, and he stammered. You wicked woman. How did you find them? How did they end up in your hands? I rose to my feet, observing the fourth prince feigning composure, and said calmly, Your Highness overestimates me. My methods are but a fraction of what my younger sister, Jiang Wanru, is capable of. As for how they came into my possession and how I discovered them, Wenji is your childhood name. Your Highness, have you forgotten? I am the future crown princess consort. The crown prince is my future husband. Yes. I sought aid from Crown Prince Li Xian, my future husband. That day, I saw the imperial crest embossed upon the beggar's sack of silver. I knew then that Jiang Wanru must have been secretly involved with some imperial prince. Otherwise, the servants wouldn't have searched for so long without finding anything. And the power behind Jiang Wanru must be immense. Only then could she remain unscathed and hide for so long. After hearing the old beggar's words, I recalled seeing Jiang Wanru's figure enter the Spring Phoenix Pavilion. I deduced that Jiang Wanru was the one who lured away the young girls. The Spring Phoenix Pavilion could satisfy every desire of the wealthy and powerful, even the most despicable inclinations. Therefore, Jiang Wanru must have learned at the Spring Phoenix Pavilion that the fourth prince favored young girls, and thus she hooked herself onto the fourth prince's ship. She found all sorts of young girls for the fourth prince, training them to be exactly what he desired. In return, the fourth prince ensured her protection. A truly perfect arrangement. Alas, as humans act, heaven observes. Such inhuman crimes defy both divine justice and earthly law. Seeing my solemn expression, the fourth prince knew I meant business. With a sweeping gesture, he agreed to my demand. He even informed me he would send his concubine-born sister, Jiang Wanru, to my residence. As I watched his departing figure, I stopped him and spoke firmly. Release those young girls. He gritted his teeth, a flash of ferocity crossing his face. Seeing the Jiang household's guards standing outside the door, he finally nodded. Jiang Wanyue, you're ruthless. Those young girls, this palace will personally release them from my private residence. But before he could return Jiang Wanru, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince vanished. I learned the news while embroidering a pouch for Crown Prince Li Xian. That day, I'd asked for his help, and he'd readily agreed. As he was leaving, I noticed a loose thread on a pouch at his waist. I asked him to remove it so I could mend it and deliver it to the Eastern Palace another day. Hearing this, he laughed heartily, his voice clear as mountain spring water. Since Miss Jiang is so considerate, then embroider a pouch for this prince. To receive a hand-embroidered pouch from Miss Jiang myself, I am truly fortunate. At that moment, my face flushed crimson. Before he could leave, I clutched his pouch and dashed out. Lost in thought about that conversation with Crown Prince Li Xian, I drifted into a daze. The next instant, a sharp sting pierced my fingertip, snapping me back to reality. A bead of blood the size of a pea dripped from my hand. It stained the pouch, and I knew something was terribly wrong. The Crown Prince must not come to harm. I set the pouch down, my mind racing. Today was the autumn hunt. The Crown Prince and the other princes were accompanying the Emperor. Previous autumn hunts had always been held at the Mulan hunting grounds. But this year the Emperor was unwell. So, the hunt was moved to Nanhazi, the closest hunting ground to the palace. I had just met with the fourth prince yesterday. Today, the Crown Prince met with misfortune. Could it be that the fourth prince broke his word? To avoid handing over those young girls. Did he sacrifice the Crown Prince? The Emperor has few heirs. Apart from the eldest prince who died young, the second prince, and several princesses, only 3 princes remain now. The fourth Prince Li Jing, the sixth Prince and Crown Prince Li Xian, and the 9th Prince Li Ku, though the 9th prince is still but an infant in swaddling clothes. After much deliberation, I finally formed a plan. I summoned Qiutong and swiftly sent a secret letter into the palace. Then she and I hurried to the palace gates. Just before the palace gates were locked, Lady Yuqing, the Empress's attendant, arrived as expected. When she saw the Empress, her eyes were red, as if she had been crying for a long time. Spotting me, she immediately clutched my hand tightly, her face worn with exhaustion. Yes, I understood her distress. As the birth mother of the Crown Prince, the future heir she had raised with such effort had suddenly vanished. If I were her, I'd likely lose my mind. I looked at her and knelt directly on the ground. I told her about my plea to see the Crown Prince for help, and about my meeting with the fourth prince. After listening, she only shook her head and pulled me up. She looked at me, 2 clear tears falling down her gaunt cheeks. She wiped her tears and spoke softly. My child, it's not your fault. Never think that because Xian helped you, the fourth prince targeted him because of you. The fourth prince, Li Jing, has harbored treacherous ambitions for years. You've been in the palace too little to understand his nature. Even without this incident, the fourth prince would never have spared Xianer. The fault lies solely with Xianer's kind heart, always believing his fourth brother to be the same noble brother who shielded him from a blade years ago. But as people grow, hearts change. Which prince doesn't covet the throne? After all, it represents the greatest power under heaven. It's all my fault. I should have eliminated Li Jing long ago. Then my Xianer wouldn't have suffered like this. I watched her weep uncontrollably, on the verge of fainting. My chest felt like it was crushed by a boulder, suffocating me, fighting back the agony. I leaned close to her ear and whispered a few words. Soon after, news spread throughout the palace. The Crown Prince had vanished, and the Emperor had fallen gravely ill. Then, the Emperor began coughing up blood repeatedly, his life hanging by a thread. That very night, an urgent summons arrived, and the fourth prince, Li Jing, was hastily summoned to the palace. The Emperor was near death. Grasping Li Jing's hand, he mistakenly recognized him as Crown Prince Li Xian. He then handed Li Jing an imperial edict, commanding the Crown Prince to ascend the throne immediately. Li Jing was instantly filled with joy. But upon opening the edict, he discovered the Crown Prince named within was still Li Xian. Only then did he realize the Emperor had mistaken him for Li Xian when addressing him as Crown Prince. Gazing at the sickly Emperor, he abandoned all pretense. He snatched the edict and tossed it into the brazier. The Emperor froze in shock, bolting upright. Only then did he realize the figure before him was not Crown Prince Li Xian at all. It was clearly the fourth prince, Li Jing. He suddenly remembered his beloved son. Li Xian, had vanished just days prior. Glaring at Li Jing, the emperor pounded the bed rail furiously. You unfilial wretch! This is an edict written in my own hand. How dare you destroy it? Do you realize that burning an imperial edict and defying the emperor's command is a capital offense? The fourth prince stared at the frail figure of the emperor, then ripped off his mask. Father, my sixth brother still lies unconscious. No one but your son can find him. But father, let's make a deal. Your son suggests immediately altering the edict to name me crown prince. Otherwise, father, you will never see your beloved sixth brother again. The emperor spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed, pointing at Li Jing with eyes wide in disbelief. So it was you. You would actually harm your own brother, killing your sixth brother for the throne. You have a heart of stone. Cough cough. The fourth prince, Li Jing, now clapped his hands and laughed maniacally, appearing mad. Ha 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 ha. Father, your words are inaccurate. For the throne, your son would not only kill the sixth brother, but could also kill the emperor himself. If your majesty refuses to name me crown prince, the blade in my hand will not recognize you as my father. Watching him draw the dagger from his sleeve, slowly advancing toward the emperor, hidden behind the screen, I gave a nod to the elite guard beside me. With a thunderous palm strike, he knocked the dagger from Li Jing's hand, seized the fourth prince, Li Jing. The next instant, the emperor's previously sickly expression vanished. Instead, he appeared vibrant and robust, supporting the empress. I emerged slowly from behind the screen with the palace's elite guards. Li Jing looked at us, then at the emperor, instantly understanding. This was a play we had all orchestrated together. He had believed himself in control, yet in reality, he was merely the clown. I knelt before the emperor and empress, bowing my head. Your humble daughter thanks your majesty and the empress for your magnanimity. Were it not for the emperor's wisdom and willingness to risk his life to lure out Li Jing, we could never have exposed his true colors today. The emperor laughed heartily, nodding to the empress as his clear voice rang out. Truly, the empress has discerning eyes, choosing such a fine daughter-in-law for me. If you wish to praise me, praise the empress instead. After all, she persuaded me at length before I agreed to this charade. Truly, no pain, no gain. Guards, take Li Jing away. Subject him to 72 tortures. I refuse to believe he won't spill his secrets. Indeed, no one knows a son better than his father. After just 3 tortures, Li Jing couldn't endure the pain. Soon, he confessed everything. It turned out the fourth prince Li Jing had long resolved to eliminate Li Xian. He had attempted to form factions, rally ministers, and smear Li Xian's reputation. Yet Li Xian, as the future heir, possessed not only regal bearing but also flawless conduct. No matter how they schemed to frame him, they found no vulnerabilities. Finally, Li Jing resolved to eliminate Crown Prince Li Xian. His original plan centered on the autumn hunt. It turned out that even if I hadn't threatened him to hand over Jiang Wanru and release those young girls, Li Xian still couldn't escape the hidden trap Li Jing had set during the hunt. Li Jing had long since tampered with the horse Li Xian frequently rode. He ordered men to insert needles into the horse's hooves, each coated with anesthetic. Initially, the horse would feel nothing, but the moment Li Xian mounted it for the hunt, the horse would soon bolt wildly. As for the guards stationed nearby, ostensibly imperial guards protecting the prince, they had long been replaced by his secret agents. Their plan was to feign rescue the moment the horse acted strangely, then knock Li Xian unconscious in the woods. They would secretly dress him in guard attire and transport him under cover of darkness to a private residence outside the fourth prince's palace. After all, if Li Xian died, the emperor, who held no affection for the fourth prince, might even enthrone the infant ninth prince. He knew the emperor cherished Li Xian. That was precisely why he had spared Li Xian's life, to use him as leverage against the emperor. The choice was clear: forfeit the life of his beloved son, or allow Li Jing to become crown prince. In exchange, he would certainly spare Li Xian's life. After hearing the palace attendant's account, the emperor studied Li Jing's bloodstained letter and the location of the crown prince's hiding place before snorting coldly. Dare to threaten the emperor? This life of yours has come to an end. He immediately sought out Xianer. Upon finding him, Li Jing demoted him to commoner status and ordered his immediate execution. When Li Xian returned to the palace, a grand banquet was held for 3 days. Yes, Li Xian was the emperor's most beloved son, not only because his abilities far surpassed those of the fourth prince, but also because he possessed a benevolent heart. More importantly, the emperor had long known that the fourth prince, Li Jing, harbored treacherous intentions. Yet, as a father, he still held a fundamental affection for Li Jing. However, when it came to safeguarding the empire and its people, he had to choose a benevolent ruler. Li Jing had long been erased from his heart. Had Li Jing remained content, the emperor would have granted him the life of an idle prince, allowing him to live out his days in peace and happiness. But if he dared to be insatiable, coveting what was not his, even plotting against the future heir, his own life would come to an end. The returning crown prince Li Xian appeared unchanged, only slightly thinner, with a small scar now on his face. Since we were not yet wed, we did not sit together at the banquet. Across the crowd, he raised his cup to me, gazing from afar with a gentle smile. I knew he was expressing his gratitude. I lifted my handkerchief to my mouth and chuckled softly. Then I took the pouch from my sleeve and waved it lightly in my hand. Seeing it, his eyes widened with delight. The next moment, I tucked the pouch back into my sleeve. Watching his flustered expression, I pretended to sip my wine calmly. I ignored him, yet my heart was stirred by ripples of emotion. After the banquet ended, I went to the separate courtyard outside Crown Prince Li Xian's palace, for it was there that Jiang Wanru was imprisoned. When the fourth Prince Li Jing's household was confiscated, the emperor was furious, for among the seized items were not only letters colluding with several ministers, but also irrefutable evidence of his and the eighth prince's plot to ally with the Xiongnu, betraying the nation. The eighth prince was executed immediately, and all his household possessions were confiscated. Within Li Jing's residence, over 20 young girls were discovered. All had been hidden in cellars when found. Jiang Wanru was the one managing them. The crown prince knew this was her sole doing, not directed by the Jiang household. Therefore, to prevent the emperor's wrath from falling upon the Jiang family, he concealed Jiang Wanru's actions from me and left her punishment to my discretion. The young girls were all properly settled. Those with parents were reunited with them. Those without parents were temporarily housed in the crown prince's secondary residence. They would serve as maids, fetching tea and water, receiving a monthly stipend. The daughter of that old beggar was among them. Watching the father and daughter kneel in gratitude, I quickly pulled them up. I then ordered servants to reward them with silver as compensation. After settling the young girls, Jiang Wanru was bound and gagged, then sent to the dungeon beneath the crown prince's private residence. Now, dressed in a fiery red court gown, I stood before Jiang Wanru, radiant and triumphant. Various torture instruments were in my hands. A palace attendant poured a basin of ice-cold water over her, startling the sleeping Jiang Wanru awake. Seeing me, her eyes widened with terror. Amidst that terror, a flicker of hatred passed through her gaze. I looked at her, exhaling deeply with pure satisfaction. Jiang Wanru, Jiang Wanru, I come today bearing news of the utmost importance. Your own mother, Lady Zheng, with her dirty hands, secretly poisoned my bowl, attempting to murder the future crown princess. How could father tolerate such treachery? He immediately ordered her expulsion from the estate. But I swiftly intervened. See? Father's heart is too kind. Your own mother attempted to poison the crown prince's consort. That's a capital offense. Still, she did serve father faithfully, if not for merit, then for her devotion. Wouldn't you agree, Wanu? I set down the whip and picked up a boning knife. I looked at her. A faint, mocking smile playing on my lips. Her face drained of color as she shouted at me, demanding what I'd done to her mother. Seeing her panic, I flicked my wrist and slapped her across the face. A thin trickle of blood instantly appeared at the corner of her mouth. Only then did I speak slowly. Truly the daughter of that shallow-minded Jin woman. So ignorant of propriety. Shouting and screaming, what manner is this? Speaking of the Jing family, they've never been the most well-behaved. I suppose I'll have to find someone to properly discipline her. After all, while death may be spared, punishment is inevitable. What do you say? Outside the palace, there's an alley where eunuchs gather. I saw an old eunuch there. So old yet still unable to marry. It's truly pitiful. I watched her eyes widen suddenly, filled with terror. It felt satisfying. So I continued. I'm a kind soul, you see. So I bestowed your mother upon him. He was so grateful to me then, swearing he'd treat your mother well. Of course he would. Even back in the palace, he was notorious for being cruel and twisted. With your mother in his hands, I felt perfectly at ease. Alas, it wasn't long before your mother couldn't endure that eunuch. She was beaten to death. I imagine you must have missed Lady Jing terribly. Well, look, I've brought your mother back. With that, I opened the wooden box beside me, revealing Lady Jing's severed head inside. Wanu fainted instantly. But after several buckets of ice water, she came to quickly, staring at me, her eyes bloodshot, her face contorted, her gaze poisonous. Wanu, I wish I could kill you. Since childhood, you've had everything handed to you effortlessly, things I had to fight tooth and nail to obtain. I refuse to accept this. I should have stabbed you to death back then. Watching her gnash her teeth in fury, I found it nothing but laughable. I casually tossed Lady Jing's head to the wolfhound beside me. I looked at her, chuckled a few times, then spoke softly. Too bad you won't get the chance. Still, you're quite the schemer. Using that stable hand who secretly adores you, you went to great lengths to have the guards pass him messages. And he risked his life to save you, buying sleeping potion. Knocking everyone out without a second thought. TSK. Look at him. So devoted to you. Why must you break his heart? She stared at me as if seeing a specter, shaking her head in disbelief. I watched her, gripping her chin firmly, and smiled faintly. Ah, you truly are an ungrateful wretch. Disdaining him is one thing, but how could you be so cruel as to sell him to Nanfeng Pavilion, where he was subjected to the brutal humiliation of countless men? TSK. When it comes to cruelty, your sister truly can't hold a candle to you. But thankfully, I arrived just in time. I rescued her right when he was about to be violated by those men. My dear sister, tell me, if he saw you again, how do you think he'd treat you? Wanu immediately burst into tears, desperately begging me to save her. She'd be willing to be my slave forever to repay me. She begged me to spare her, to keep her from falling into that stable hand's clutches. Seeing her like that, if she weren't bound by ropes, she'd have knelt and kowtowed to me instantly. As if hearing the most laughable joke in the world, I clapped my hands. With a creak, someone pushed open the door. His body was covered in scars. Gaunt and emaciated, he must have suffered greatly before. His leg had been broken, leaving him a cripple. He was the stable hand. gazing at the bound Jiang Wanru. His eyes blazed with fury. He bowed low to me, swearing eternal gratitude for saving his life. He vowed to treat Jiang Wanru well, proving his loyalty to me. I nodded in satisfaction. Then I placed the dagger in his hand, closed the door, and walked away slowly. Behind me, Jiang Wanru's shrill, wailing cries for mercy immediately echoed. Soon after, I married the crown prince. I entered the Eastern Palace, becoming the crown princess. Above all others, Crown Prince Li Xian was a truly good man. His character was gentle and refined. Like Jade, he was also well-versed in both military strategy and literary arts, excelling especially in horsemanship and archery. Though our marriage was decreed by imperial edict, he treated me with genuine kindness. He not only accorded me ample respect but also showered me with heartfelt care and affection. In our leisure hours, he taught me to ride and shoot arrows. Within just 7 days, I could ride a horse and shoot down a flying wild goose. In his gaze toward me, beyond respect, there was a hint of admiration and affection. Our days together weren't drenched in saccharine sweetness, but we lived in mutual respect and affection. As time passed, our bond grew ever closer. After court each day, he would hurry straight to the Eastern Palace to share amusing anecdotes from the political arena with me. And in his eyes when he looked at me, there was an added depth of love. I, too, gradually grew to love this husband who treated me so well. By this time, I was already 2 months pregnant. After the crown prince had finished his morning meal, he told me to rest well and went to court first. Watching his departing figure, my heart was filled with joy. Gently caressing my belly, my eyes brimmed with anticipation for the new life growing within. Just then, a palace attendant reported that someone sought an audience. Hearing a familiar name, a faint smile touched my lips, and I ordered him to be brought in immediately. It was the stable hand. After several months apart, he had grown much more robust. Upon seeing me, he immediately knelt and kowtowed, then presented a box. Inside lay Jiang Wanru, chopped into mincemeat. He told me he had inflicted upon Jiang Wanru every torture he had ever experienced, and every single humiliation he had endured at Nanfeng Pavilion that day. He had returned to her in full measure. Jiang Wanru endured it for months. Finally, with not a single inch of good flesh left on her body, she breathed her last. Staring at the wooden box stained with blood, I pressed a handkerchief to my mouth. I ordered the palace attendant to open it, then quickly took it away. Pregnancy brings anxiety. I cannot bear the sight of blood. Yet every day, palace attendants reported Jiang Wanru's condition to me. Every moment under the stablehand's care was unbearably wretched for Jiang Wanru. When it came to punishing her, the stablehand spared no effort. Furious and enraged, he gripped me tightly, his eyes bloodshot. I glanced at the wooden box beside me, feeling a surge of satisfaction. Turning to the stablehand, I said, "You've done well, you haven't disappointed me. This is your reward. Live well from now on." The stablehand's eyes welled up. Then he knelt to accept the gold and express his gratitude. Watching his receding figure, I told the palace attendant, "Take the filthy things in that wooden box and feed them to the dogs." The palace attendant left at my command. Watching the vicious dog gulp it down, my face broke into a wide smile. Then I picked up my embroidery and began stitching several sets of nightwear for the crown prince. Seeing the mandarin ducks playing in the water on the fabric, I laughed heartily. My embroidery skills really are improving more and more. The end.